So wait, then the panda did what?
No, the bird. The
Bird.
bird told the panda. It's not funny if you say the
Dak.
panda first. The bird told the panda, not in my town, mister.
Right. That makes sense.
That's
Okay.
the way
I'll
it
get it right
works.
next time. I
Yes,
promise.
please do.
Are you ready to, I don't know. What do you want to do? Daily
I
Technician?
was born ready.
Are
You know,
you trying to make that your catchphrase? We should
I,
put some T-shirts in the Daily Tech News Show shop.
I really hope every time we do the show now, I'm kind of waiting for you to ask me if I'm ready because
Can we
saying it.
can we license the image of you in the USA tank top and cowboy hat, and then
I
I was
will
born ready.
I will release those rights to you for a very reasonable amount of money.
Good. Well, yeah, we'll cut you in on the sales, of course. All right, here we go.
The Daily Tech News Show with Tom Merritt is powered by Patreons like you. From 5 cents to $50, every contribution helps Tom and company produce fresh episodes of essential tech news. To learn more and support the show, visit patreon.com/acedtech. And thanks for listening.
This is the Daily Tech News for Wednesday, January 14th, 2015. I'm Tom Merritt. Joining me today, Patrick Beja, DTNS contributor, host of many fine podcasts, including Le Rendezvous Tech, Pixels, The Phileas Club, and more. How is your Wednesday, Patrick Beja?
It's a lot better now that I'm on a show with you.
Aw, thank you.
It was good. It was good before.
Okay,
but,
good.
Now it's superb.
Well, I think a lot of people probably are wondering for your thoughts on the events in your town in Paris recently. Have you discussed that on any of your shows?
We did discuss it on the Rendezvous Tech at length at the end of the show. So if you speak French, you might be interested. But we will discuss it on the Phileas Club, which is a show where we discuss, international news in general with people from different countries, different cultures. So if you're interested in in that topic, please listen to that show, which we'll be recording at the end of the month. And since you're bringing it up, I really wanted to, from the bottom of my heart, thank all the people who have sent me tweets and messages and everything. Basically, a whole bunch of people have been sending me messages saying, "Hey, you're the only French person I know. I really hope you're doing okay." And they all were saying a variation of, "I know it doesn't do much," but obviously it was a little bit of a hard time, and it did mean a lot. So thank you very much. It was a very strange experience being right next door, basically, to everything happening, and yet still very remote because it didn't affect me directly in any way. So I was following it online, and anyway, it was really great to get that support, and thank you very much from the bottom of my heart.
Well, but obviously we're glad you're safe, and that you're we're very sad, all of us, about the people who were murdered. And I was incredibly impressed personally with the response from people. So
it was.
What that's worth.
It was a very impressive, for sure, impressive reaction. I do have a tendency of being very balanced, so overly balanced. So when everyone is going in one direction, I pull back a little bit, and I started thinking very quickly about what was going to happen afterwards. And I think a lot of what already happened was really important. I think a lot of what is going to be happening from now on is going to be, I don't want to say maybe even more important, but certainly very important as well, and
perhaps have longer lasting effects. Maybe.
Yeah, exactly. We already are seeing some policies being proposed that you've discussed in the Daily Tech News Show, and yeah, that's also very important, and it could be the topic for an entire show. But
sure. Well, if you speak French, Le Rendezvous Tech, and if you speak English, the Phileas Club. Check them both out. Let's get into the headlines. The next web reports on the update to Google Translate that came out today for iOS and Android. We talked about it on Monday, but now it's a real thing. The update speeds up conversation mode for spoken word by automatically recognizing which of the two selected languages is being spoken without having to be told. The app also integrates Word Lens, which allows instant translation of well-lighted signs. That feature supports English, French, German, Italian, Portuguese, Russian, and Spanish. I tried this out, Patrick, because I speak a little bit of Spanish, enough to test this app. And it really works in knowing which language you're trying to speak, right? So you have to tell it English and Spanish. And then you have to start by having one English phrase spoken and then one Spanish phrase spoken so they know which side is which. But then you tap the mic again and it just listens. And that way you can have a real-time conversation, not necessarily a back and forth. But when I tried to say, CC bueno, it said Fifi F, for instance.
Okay.
And then I tried to say okay, bye, and it like wrote okay, bye, and then changed it to CFI, and didn't make any sense.
So it wasn't only that your Spanish wasn't up to snuff. Your English also didn't work very well.
Wait, no, my Spanish isn't great, but it was good enough. Yeah, no.
I'm wondering. I'm just thinking out loud. I don't know.
I think what I was trying to get you to say was, oh, your impressive use of the minimal Spanish you had could not have possibly been the problem because it messed up your English as well. But you're probably right. I probably just mush mouthed it.
No, I'm probably wrong. Anyway, Google's Project Aura, the modular smartphone, will start a pilot program in Puerto Rico in the second half of this year. The Verge reports Project Aura will partner with Puerto Rican carriers OpenMobile and Claro. Google will have food truck-style stores, that's interesting, where customers can look at the 20 to 30 modules that will be available across 10 different categories.
And we should say that doesn't mean you won't be able to order them online, but I think it's cool that they're going to have these little mobile food trucks, except without food.
Yeah,
maybe they should have food.
Aura and food. That's a good marketing idea there. Aura, I'm of many minds for that project and modular smartphones in general, because initially I really thought it couldn't be done. It couldn't be practically done. In theory, yes, and then they started coming up with a lot of really clever ways of making it work, and now it's working, and I still think it doesn't have a big market. It's kind of an interesting idea without, I think, a wide range, a wide application. I'm sure there are going to be some people who are going to like it a lot, but I still don't see it being as revolutionary as some people think. Some people were saying it's going to replace all our phones and we're not going to have to change parts and we can keep them longer, and I don't think that's going to be it, but
I think it's interesting that they picked Puerto Rico as a place to test this. It's part of the United States, but it's not a state. At the same time, you get a little bit of the experience that you might have if you were to try it out in Mexico or somewhere else, but you have the easier position as a Google to not have to deal with a foreign government. You can deal with the United States. You've got permissions to do this, that, and the other thing. You could test it out, but also have a marketplace, which I think they might be trying to target, which is not Africa, developing world, but sort of mid-level marketplaces. Because right now they can only do 3G on Spiral 2. They hope to have Spiral 3 with LTE by the time they do this test. But I think they're going to be marketing for people who don't need to have the fastest and best, but rather flexibility and cost control. I mean, I don't get the feeling that these are going to be super cheap, but again, like having a la carte television doesn't necessarily save you money. It gives you control over what you spend from month to month. That's what these could do. Like, you know what? I'm going to start with just the basic model because that's a little more affordable, but I'll save up and I'll eventually add a better camera or add GPS or, add things down the road.
Yeah, that's still a very specific portion of the market, I would think. And if it adds up to a lot of money, it's still going to be people. I don't know. Let's talk more once we have the product in our hands or someone has it
for sure.
The one thing that was surprising to me, though, was that even with Spiral 3, which is their next iteration of the project, they were suspecting that to get an all-day battery, you would still need to change the battery midway through. And that alone, I think, would limit their appeal.
But at least you can.
Yeah, I guess that's one way to see it.
All right, Facebook is launching a workplace social network called Facebook at Work on the web, iOS, and Android. The Verge says anybody can get the app, but your company has to have more than 100 employees and be invited into the program by Facebook. Accounts have their own logins, but they can be linked to Facebook personal accounts, though information is not shared between them. It's just an easy way to log in. Facebook at Work has no ads, does not track data, although it is hosted by Facebook. It also doesn't have an API right now, so you can share documents, but there's no collaboration on them. There's no editing. It's also free for now. We're going to save our thoughts on this so we can expand them a little later. But just quickly, Patrick, excited, meh, or unexcited?
I'd say curious. Does that count? Does that work?
Man, even in Movielicious days, you just couldn't stick to the scale, could you? All right, curious. I'll accept that.
However, I will let you know that Google, Apple, Adobe, and Intel added $90 million to a proposed settlement over wage fixing, which brings the total to $415 million. Reuters report the deal came as companies decided against appealing an August U.S. District Court ruling that the original amount was too low. The companies were sued for keeping lists of employees they agreed not to hire away from each other. Affected engineers will receive a few $1,000s each as a result of the suit.
Kind of a slap on the wrist. But Judge Koh said that the previous amount was too low, so they had to come back with something.
Yeah, it's definitely not going to hurt them.
If you thought the Tizen OS was just for TVs and watches after CES, oh no. GigaOM reports the Tizen-powered Z1 went on sale today in India for 5,700 Indian rupees. That's about $92 US. The 3G Z1 has a 4-inch 800 by 480 screen, an unspecified 1.2 gigahertz dual-core processor, 768 megabytes of RAM, 3.1 megapixel rear camera. Comes, though, with free 3-month subscriptions to several services. They call it the Joy Box, and those services do things like stream Bollywood songs and movies.
Yeah, why not? I mean, Tizen has had a rocky development and life, but it's one of the remaining contenders for a potential entry in, I was going to say, as a third OS for mobiles. I was discounting Windows Phone, which is what I should not do. But it could, in the long run, it could become something really interesting. So it's really important to note that it's not in a box somewhere being forgotten at this point. So.
Yeah, I feel like this is Samsung keeping it on the burner, saying like, well, we shouldn't cut phone development for it yet. We might learn something out of it. Let's find a market where it won't lose us too much money.
Yeah. And there was a moment last year or the year before where they were pushing away from Google really hard, and it brought Google back to maybe being a little bit softer on their partners. So I think they might have achieved what they wanted initially, but they're still keeping Tizen just in case.
Yeah, and don't forget Android One, which is people are still debating whether that's successful or not, has phones that are just as good at this, but have the Android. The Google Play App Store, which is a big advantage.
The new dual analog stick Nintendo 3DS will launch in North America and Europe on February 13, 2015, with red and black models. Engadget reports North America will get the XL version, while Europe will get both. Interestingly, the system will not ship with an AC adapter, but will be compatible with any AC adapter from previous 3DS or DSi systems. You can also purchase one separately. I think that might have been the case for the latest models, like the 2DS at least. The 3DS will play all existing. The new 3DS will play all existing 3DS games, like The Legend of Zelda: Majora's Mask 3D and Monster Hunter Ultimate Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate. Those are coming out sometime next year. And there will also be new 3DS specific games, although their number might be limited, at least at first. And according to Ars Technica, pre-orders at retailer GameStop begin tomorrow. The price in the US is $200, with prices in Europe not yet announced. We're guessing it would be 200 euros.
Yeah, that's a good guess. GigaOM reports that the entire public transportation grid in Athens, Greece is now supporting a smartphone ticketing system. The system will use UK company Masabi's Just Ride mobile ticketing system, and MasterCard will handle the secure payments. Users can buy tickets on their smartphone, which are displayed on their screens to show fare inspectors, and feature a QR code to scan at automated stations.
I think we should all have this. They've had a similar system that worked with SMS in Finland for a long time. And how come we don't?
Yeah,
everyone should
I think Boston has it, and not Manhattan, but I think the New York Long Island system might have it. I'm not sure.
Well, yeah, I was saying we as in you and me, Tom.
You and I should have a train that connects Los Angeles and Paris that this would work on. That'd be awesome.
That would be great. TechCrunch reports that taxi hailing app company Ola plans to be in 200 Indian cities by the end of 2015. The 4-year-old Indian company is in 50 cities now, up from 19 in October, back when SoftBank landed a $210 million funding round in the company. Ola offers a hotline and other ways to book a ride for those without smartphones, and offered financing to drivers who want to purchase a car a full year before Uber introduced a similar system in the region.
Yep. Those car wars, man, they're heating up.
Yeah.
Reuters reports Google is in talks with major car makers to help get self-driving cars on the market by 2020. Chris Urmson, director of Google's self-driving car project, said the talks include GM, Ford, Toyota, Daimler, and Volkswagen. The Detroit Free Press reports Google is building driverless car prototypes in Livonia, Michigan, at a Roush facility.
What's a Roush?
It's the brand. It's the name of the company that operates the facility.
Oh, okay. Well, I was worried for a second. TechCrunch reports GoPro is partnering with Vislink to enable live HD broadcasting for GoPro cameras. A live transmitter can be attached to GoPro Hero 4 cameras. The device and service are not yet available, but more details are promised in the spring. So live streaming from GoPros.
Yeah, that sounds cool. I want to see how much that thing is and how it connects and all of that, but could be awesome. Reuters cites a person familiar with the matter who says Samsung has approached BlackBerry with a offer to purchase them worth about $7.5 billion. Samsung apparently wants BlackBerry's patents. The source says Samsung offered $13.35 to $15.49 per share, which is about 38% above the current trading price for BlackBerry. Intriguing. If this source is correct, BlackBerry entertained the offer. They met with Samsung to discuss it.
So what would you do, Tom? If you were BlackBerry today, would you sell? Or would
I'd take that money and I would run with it because I'm a conservative, fearful, I don't know if that's the right thing for BlackBerry. I keep feeling like they're inching closer to doing something like with their advantages. I feel like John Chen has really got them moving in the right direction. It's a battleship to turn, right? So it almost feels like it would be too soon. It feels like you're just selling it for parts if you give it to Samsung. And I don't know. I still have hope for BlackBerry.
Yeah. Well, the funny thing is, a year ago, had you asked me the same question, I would have said, of course you sell. What are you talking about? Like right now, bring the check today. Today, however, I'm not so sure because they've been doing a lot better. I don't think they're ever going to become as big as they were before, but it seems like they might be going somewhere. So
yeah, exactly. I think that's the same feeling I'm getting, which is I think the smart move would still be to sell, like the on paper move. But I don't know. I have a gut feeling that there's still a chance. So you're saying there's a chance. Time for some news from you. These are a couple of things we pulled out of our subreddit, dailytechnewsshow.reddit.com. that people particularly are interested in. Thanks to everybody who goes in there and votes on the stories. It really helps us put the lineup together every day. Spaceman Pete 42 was among many people who submitted the story about U.S. President Obama posting a YouTube video about municipal broadband, among other things. The president will visit Cedar Falls, Iowa, which, like Chattanooga, Tennessee, which he also mentioned, built its own fiber infrastructure and has offered gigabit internet to its citizens for a couple of years now. That would be against the law in some U.S. states. So The Verge reports the White House is petitioning the FCC to end restrictions in 19 states that limit broadband rollout.
So that's an interesting one, because we've had the debate about net neutrality many times, and you've had it with many other people. And I think the crux of the key point we've been discussing is whether or not there needs to be legally enforced net neutrality. And you've made the very good argument saying that that was not really the issue, but competition was the issue, which plays into the camp of people who are saying, see, we don't need regulation. And very often I agree with that point in theory, but then I would argue that in order to get a viable competition, you still do need regulation, because that is one element that prevents competition to happen. So you do need to force competition by allowing communities to build their own infrastructure, which is prevented in many places right now. So yeah, it's just an interesting, difficult, very complicated story. But I think he would be doing something good, because it could solve that problem. Well, maybe not solve, but help solve that problem of competition.
At least it's the government, if he can get the FCC to do this, it's the government acting to increase competition. Now, the people who pass these laws argue the opposite. They say that these laws are meant to stop the government from driving away competition by getting into the game. I think that's a backwards argument. The organization of the government doesn't have an advantage if they don't make it against the law for you to compete with them. So I think Chattanooga and Cedar Falls are great case studies in that.
Yeah, the proof is in the pudding.
Give me some pudding.
Tom, do you know which is the best kind of llama?
I would imagine one
that
doesn't spit in my face.
DisapprovingLlama got approval from DTNS subredditors for the story about Google making its domain name registration service available to everyone in the US at domains.google.com. VentureBeat says the new service also improved domain name search, added a simple management dashboard, and integrated with Google-owned Blogger. You can sign up to be notified when the service opens up in your region.
All right. And that is a look at the headlines. All right, let's get into a couple of discussions. We are going to get to the Facebook at work, but first, Dailymotion launched a Twitch competitor today, Dailymotion Games, partnering with people like Eclipsia, Millennium, Join Dota, IGN, GameSpot, Game Cult. Company said users can download Dailymotion Games apps for iOS and Android, and PlayStation 4 users will also be able to watch live streams. Patrick, tell me a little bit more about this. I know you've been following this closely. Dailymotion is from France.
Yeah, and they have had a very, I don't want to say rocky, but difficult life. They were launched a while ago. I should know this, but I'm sorry, I don't. It was back when YouTube was not the juggernaut that it is today.
I remember when I still worked at CNET, Dailymotion was jokingly referred to as the place where you could see naked people, because the French had different standards about what was considered obscenity on Dailymotion.
So it didn't work out super well for them. Dailymotion, I feel, I mean, you have Vimeo, you have other services there. I feel the second video streaming service after YouTube, but they're so much smaller that it almost doesn't count. And they've had this very difficult time when Yahoo was looking at buying them. And if you remember, the Orange, the telecom company, has a majority share in Dailymotion, I believe, and the government, as a shareholder of Orange, could have done something to prevent that sale to Yahoo, but then the minister, a minister, stepped in and said, "We shall not sell one of our pride jewels to foreign interests," and that was a disaster because it projected an image of France where the government will intervene and put in peril anything that private companies will do, and it's still to this day being felt. The repercussions of that, and Dailymotion has been trying to climb up that hill against YouTube for a long time. That thing certainly did not help. It wasn't probably the deciding factor, but they haven't managed to achieve that, and they've been going really strongly into the gaming category, where YouTube has been growing tremendously in the past 3 years, and they've gone through stages that I've heard. It's second and third hand reports, but from reliable people and multiple people, they made insane raises in their CPM, in the amount of money they would give people streaming through their service. And the amounts were not sustainable, and the people streaming were abusing them as well, making invisible players and things like that, auto players and stuff like that. At the same time, Dailymotion wasn't saying too much because they were happy to say that they were having enormous amounts of views, or larger amounts of views. So that came to a grinding halt maybe a year or a year and a half ago, but it did give them the inkling that something was definitely happening in gaming. And now with Twitch success, I think that they've been, they've had this offer to stream live for a long time, but now they're sort of rebranding it and focusing on it. And I think it's tempting to say that this is them going after Twitch. I don't really think that's the case, though. I think it's them not getting traction against YouTube and trying to find a way out, which happens to be Twitch. And they're doing pretty well. I mean, one of the sites you've mentioned, jeuxvideo.com, is if I'm not mistaken, I believe the third biggest video website in the world, mostly because of their forums, which are very active, but still, it's a massive site, and they're using Dailymotion service exclusively, so they're getting traction, at least in France and possibly in other areas. So it's an interesting thing. I'm not sure how much traction they're going to get ultimately, but certainly they're doing everything right to be really big in that field in France and expanding in Europe. I don't know if they're going to make it in the US, which is very Twitch focused right now, but at least they're building something solid in an area where there's still things that can happen. My one concern, to conclude, is that while gaming is really big, it's certainly not as big as video streaming in general. So I'm thinking they might be using this to get into the live streaming game, pun not intended, and then possibly expand into live streaming more once they've had more experience in that. But
in other words, if they can get, I mean, you've got partnerships with GameSpot, IGN, like you say, these many most popular gaming sites around the world. If they can get attention on them, get people using the live streaming platform more. They already, like you said, they already have a live streaming platform, but people might start to think of it as a place that you would want to use. I know Brian Brushwood was using Dailymotion for a while, but he had the same lag time problems and issues that you were having with Twitch. And I think that's one of the things that a lot of live streamers are concerned with is just that kind of instantaneousness, that getting rid of that lag.
Yeah, it's a good effort. I really hope they manage to find success there and to expand further, because it's a good company. I mean, they have a great service. They're now they're competitive technically with YouTube. It's just a matter of mind share. So
yeah, give me the tool that makes it easier to do what I do as someone who does this. And you'll convince me. I don't care whether you're gaming or whatever your marketing focus is. That you really need to convince the streamers to use it by having something compelling to make them want to use it. That's
they're chasing a demographic and a market slice, which is sort of a core market slice that cares about these kinds of things. So it's good to go after them now and to try to establish a base. We'll see if they manage to do that, and then if they expand afterwards.
Let's turn back to the Facebook at Work. Now, I gave you all the details earlier. It's for large companies, 100+ companies. It's not the only one out there, though. Microsoft bought Yammer many years ago, and they've been really pushing it. As of July 2013, most recent numbers I could find, they had more than 8 million users. So they're getting people to sign up. They've bundled it into Office. It's right there. Everybody who has Microsoft products can use it in their workplace. But the problem is people are not adopting it. You can put it on everybody's desktop. You can tell them it's there. You can launch the account. But if you can't get people to remember to use it, it's not going to be very useful. LinkedIn is planning to do something like this. You've already got things like Convo, Socialcast, Slack. We just started using Slack here on Daily Tech News Show to try to communicate with each other. That's more of a chat-based one. What Facebook's doing here, I think, is interesting. They're saying, look, we're going to focus on the larger companies. We're going to focus on the ones where you need somebody who's good at separating the wheat from the chaff, and so you're going to have a news feed in your workplace social network. And the idea for all of these, everybody talks about we need to replace email. Email is cumbersome. It's hard to track. It's hard to search. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't lift the appropriate good stuff to the top. And this is Facebook's attempt to fix that. What do you think their chances are, Patrick?
I wouldn't venture on saying what their chances are. I think we shouldn't discount them. And I'm not sure they fill the same purpose as Yammer and Slack and others. I mean, I've used Asana, I've used Slack a little bit. Those things are really cumbersome. I mean, I'm sure they do wonders for your productivity once you know how to use them, but they're sort of intimidating. And that's a little bit, that's, I think, a really big barrier to entry. And I'm not sure Facebook is going to focus so much on productivity. I think their advantage, there are two of them. First of all, you already know how to use it. So that's an enormous advantage. That already gives them a big ease of entry for a lot of employees. As you were saying, Yammer is on every Microsoft product now, and people are still not using it in droves. And that says something. The other thing I would say is that Facebook might be a little bit of a productivity. Facebook at Work might be a little bit of a productivity tool. I'm sure it will be used that way as well. But even more importantly, what Facebook does is it eases communication between people who are not always communicating. I mean, sure, you're using Facebook with your friends, but you turn into a daily beacon of news radiance and everyone gets what you're talking about. I'm reminded of that the way Steve Jobs changed, was it Pixar or Apple? I think it might have been Pixar. He built one of the offices in such a way that I think the coffee machine was in the center, with all of the desks being basically forced to.
I thought it was the bathroom. I thought that was the Pixar story. Is they put the bathroom really far away, so you had to walk through people.
Yeah, through people's spaces, not people. He wasn't that cool.
Yeah, right.
But so anyway, the point is, everyone's used, I think, intranets in companies and in big companies, and they're usually very poor. Technologically, they're very poorly designed. Everyone complains about them. And that is, I think, where Facebook at Work can become a really powerful tool, in the sense that when someone's working on a project that could be useful to you, or that you would have an idea on, but you don't even know what they're doing or the challenges they're facing, imagine that you have a safe space to discuss this within your company with a proven system that gives you that kind of information and that propagates it through enormous amounts of people. Then I think it can be a real benefit to productivity and communication in the company. That's really important.
Well, the idea would be that it would cut down on CCing everyone, right? Certain things would happen on Facebook Facebook at Work, and therefore you wouldn't have to, oh, let me CC Bob and let me add this, and you get these long email chains and they're unwieldy because they're quoting everybody. It would just be a nice, crisp thread on Facebook.
Well, see, that's where I disagree.
Okay. That's
Because
the
I
ideal,
think-
though. Why do you not think that's going to work?
Because the reason people CC everyone in emails is not so that they have the information. It's so that they can say, when someone says, hey, I didn't get that information, they can say, well, you were CC'd on that email. And on Facebook at work, you can't go tell the person, that's yelling at you, well, I put it on Facebook at work.
It was in your news feed.
Yeah.
Oh, the algorithm didn't show it to me. Yeah, well, but people say, oh, but I didn't see that email. You know how email goes. It got lost.
Yeah, but
So-
then I don't think that's a valid excuse. Whereas
Well,
I didn't see it on
I just
Facebook.
arguing you could make it the same way. Like, well, you should have been paying attention to the Facebook group then.
Maybe. I think email is incredibly resilient and annoying because of all of those things, and I don't think it's going to go away. I think Facebook is going to serve, Facebook at Work or whatever it is going to serve a different function, and maybe they're going to have tools that will indeed, alleviate the number of emails you have to send every day. I'm not saying it's not going to happen. I just don't think it's going to replace email, and email is always going to have, or still going to have.
And I don't think it's meant to replace email 100%. Obviously, you got to get in touch with somebody outside the company. They're not going to be on your Facebook at Work. There are certain things, certain times you need to just send an email from one person to another. You don't want it to be shared with the rest of the company on Facebook. Totally still uses for it. The question is, could it cut it down significantly, make it more efficient? I kind of agree with you, Patrick. I'm not sure it will work as hoped. But if anybody can do it, it's Facebook, because of what you said earlier, that you already know how to use it. So people are like, oh, Yammer, I have to use that tool. I have to launch that tool and learn that tool. Facebook at Work, most of your workforce is going to be like, oh, yeah, okay, this is really familiar. I've already got it open. I can log in with my Facebook login when I want to goof off and look at Facebook. And now I'm in the company's profile as well. That's great. So separate apps on your phone, but you could have 2 tabs on your desktop.
Yeah, no, and I think it's very important that it's separate apps and that it's separate accounts, which essentially it is. You can log into the 2 different ones with the same account, but unless you're in a very specific situation, you're probably not going to confuse one with the other, which is, I think, what a lot of people would be
Better have
worried
different
about.
colors. That's all I'm saying.
Exactly.
Because somebody, it's going to happen where somebody just thinks
Yeah.
they're on the other Facebook.
So
'cause they
Facebook at
do
Work
look
could be
similar.
the red Facebook.
Yeah. Big flashing red Facebook. All right, well, let's take a look at our pick of the day. It comes from Derek, a.k.a. Bishma, from the old Buzz Out Loud chat days, if you remember Bishma. For Android users, I would like to suggest Google Opinion Rewards. It's an app that sits on your phone and occasionally sends you a survey, which in my experience consists of 1 to 5 multiple choice questions. When the survey is done, you get Google Play credit immediately added to your account. My wife and I have both been using it for a couple months now. We seem to get 4 or 5 surveys per month. Each has taken less than a minute to finish. We typically see average rewards in the 15 to 30 cent range, but I did recently get 80 cents for telling them I prefer the taste of beef, but the cost of chicken. I love this email. My wife and I typically don't get the same survey, probably due to slightly different demographics, which is interesting. Rewards don't sound like a lot, but they can add up. 16 cents for a 30-second survey works out to $19.20 an hour. Some people, I'm sure those in key demos, say they make up to $30 a year, which can add up to a nice bundle of apps, music, and movie purchases. So check it out in the Google Play Store, and he's got a link to it here as well that we'll throw in the show notes. But yeah, I saw this. I'm like, a survey app, but he makes a compelling case of like, it's only 4 or 5 times a month, and you get credit for books and movies and apps.
Yeah, and I mean, you're always, fiddling with your phone, and what are you going to do? Like this one time you would have refreshed your Twitter feed, a 15th time in the 10 minutes that you've been looking at it. So
You just have to be comfortable giving Google your
Yeah,
information, which a lot of people are not. And those people probably aren't going to use this.
And a lot of people are.
And if you're one of those many people, then this isn't going to give them any, too much more information than they probably already know about you. Well, thank you for that, Derek. Send your picks to feedback@dailytechnewsshow.com. Folks, keep them coming. You can find my picks at dailytechnewsshow.com/picks. Just a couple of messages before we go. James from the lovely parts of Detroit, he says, pointed out that Dan wrote in yesterday about the Android bug, suggesting they decouple that part of Android from the core so they can update it without pushing a full update. He points out they did that in Android 4.4. That's the Google Play Services that I mentioned. It's part of an app called Google Play Services. My understanding is they can't do it with 4.3 without getting OEMs to push out an update to separate it, and hence the problem with Jelly Bean not getting the update for WebView. He says, just another reason I only buy Nexus or iPhone. Interesting to hear somebody say, I only buy Nexus or iPhone. Usually they're on one side or the other of that fence. And then David from Bracknell, UK, thought of another ill effect of Prime Minister Cameron's suggestion that all communication should be readable. We talked about that yesterday. David writes, would he be so keen when the legitimate governments of China, Iran, and to be extreme, North Korea demand details on their quote, terrorists? I'm betting that when that happens, and it will, he'll be the first one on the phone urging Google and Facebook not to obey local laws. The good thing about encryption is that while it costs the good guys a little, it costs the bad guys a lot.
So that's the thing that I always, because when you're talking about, theoretical, David Cameron saying we have to catch the bad guys, then yes, of course, it's still somewhere up in the air. But it's really tempting to say yes, we should get the identity of. So okay, for example, for the Charlie Hebdo events, there were a lot of people saying saying bad things on Twitter, like in support of the terrorists, French people, and everyone was enraged by this and demanded their identity immediately, and that they be banned, and that they this and that. And of course, in this case, you understand it. But it did happen in some cases, but you always have to remember exactly what is being said there by David. That justifies also North Korea, China, and whatever else to ask the identity of the good guys that we would like to keep their anonymity on Twitter.
I don't even think you have to bring China into it. You can respect China's local laws and say China should do what China wants to do. They're their own country. I think you can just point out not even rogue states. You can even leave North Korea out of it, which is one of the most extreme states on the planet. The fact is, if you make that stuff readable, that means anybody can read it.
Yeah, I think
theoretically, and that includes all of the bad guys, however you define them.
It's an easier image with China because if it happens in China, then you see the articles pop up. Twitter gave up so-and-so activist who is now going to spend the rest of his days in prison because of that and this and that. And that's the difficult thing. You can't fault Twitter for giving up the anonymity of their users there and that's
what David's saying. You don't always like it when the local laws are observed elsewhere, so be careful what you wish for.
Yeah.
Well, that's it for this show. Thank you, Patrick Beja. You can follow Patrick on Twitter. He is not Patrick. I mean, he is Patrick. It's always confusing. His Twitter ID is not confusing. Patrick. N-O-T.
It's very clear.
P-A-T-R-I-C-K. Not Pat Rick. And of course, Frenchman.com, where you can find his English language podcast. That seems perfectly clear to me.
Yeah, it is. And yeah, again, the Phileas Club. I mean, if you've never listened to it before, I hope the next episode is going to be interesting. Because of all of that. So Frenchspin.com, you can find it there.
Thanks to our 4,708 patrons who make it possible for us to not only do this show, but to have Jenny Josephson on as our producer, to have the bandwidth, to have the cameras, to have Patrick Beja, to have Justin Robert Young. And if we get to our next milestone goal, we'll add Veronica Belmont and Scott Johnson as regular contributors. If you like one or both of them, consider either maybe kicking in an extra 5 cents a show if you're already pledging, or if you haven't given us, here's a reason. If you've been looking for a reason, you're like, I like the show, I just keep forgetting to go to patreon.com/acedetect. Now you can get us a little more Veronica and Scott Johnson in our lives. Go to patreon.com/acedetect if you wish. There are other ways to support the shows too, and that counts. dailytechnewsshow.com/support for all of those. Don't forget, you can have a voice in what stories we cover. dailytechnewsshow.reddit.com, our email address feedback@dailytechnewsshow.com, our phone number 51259daily, and you can listen to the show live 4:30 Eastern, 1:30 Pacific at alphageekradio.com. Our website is dailytechnewsshow.com. Be back tomorrow with Allison Sheridan as our guest. Talk to you then.
This podcast is part of the Frog Pants Studios Network. For more information about this and other shows, visit frogpants.com. Audio program so good, it's like you're there.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.
Boom.
Excellent.
Excellent.
Excelente. I'm going to run. I have to call my wife.
Oh, okay.
I'm gonna
We'll
go.
tell her I said hello.
Excellent reason.
I will. And just one thing, I saw Je suis not Patrick in the titles of the show, the potential titles. Don't choose that one.
No.
Sorry,
Yeah.
Big
No,
Jim.
I gotcha. No, I
And
probably
Dr.
wouldn't have
Dean.
wanted to, but that's a good
Yeah.
clarification.
Yeah. All right.
It's an impulse from the audience that I'm sure Patrick appreciates, but
Oh,
would not
I-
be interpreted correctly by others, I think.
I actually, I'm very honored, but yeah, I think it's a little bit, yeah. Thank you very much, chat room. Big Jim, our lessons will resume next week, and I'll see you all very soon.
Bye, Patrick.
Bye, guys. Bye, Jenny.
Adios.
No, that's not
I mean, au
French.
revoir. Retournez-vous,
Not Patrick, not French.
mon ami. Wait, mon ami? Mon frère? Mon frère is better. Not French.
Not Patrick, not French.
Not Patrick, not French. Not Patrick, not French. Wait, it's not a protest. So my brother, who may be listening right now, informs me today that he listens to the show every day, and he heard Simon refer to him as Moss when we were talking about his Facebook posts.
Nice.
He's like, I'm honored to be Moss.
My dad finally found this show.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Hi, Dad.
He found it. He said, I watched you at CES.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Cool.
He liked the show.
I was almost afraid to ask.
Oh, yeah. Wait, let me look and see. I just realized I
And
forgot
he
exactly what
hated
he
it.
said. No, he absolutely hated it. Where is it? Dear Jenny, you looked and sounded great. We'll ask my IT consultant to update the firmware and change password on our router, which is apparently what he had taken away from that day's episode.
Yeah, well, that could be almost any episode. That's funny.
That's
okay.
pretty
Yep.
awesome. Thanks, Dad.
You know, decouple is just as acceptable as decouple. I don't know what your problem is, chat room. There's a couple people in the chat room just can't get over it.
You know,
Decouple?
I try to be real cool on matters of pronunciation because
Or
really,
do you be cool or cool?
cool. I'm in California, so it's cool.
Cool.
That's cool. I'm gonna go get an orange.
Our managing editor at Tech TV always said that spoken language was a more relaxed version and
Fluid
therefore
and
had more
evolving.
flexible rules.
Form, yeah. I try not to, because my office mate here is from upstate New York and she eats bagels. And that is totally
That's
legit.
really cute. I love that.
Bagels. Sorry.
Bagels.
Bagels. Bagels. No, you said bagels. Bagels.
Bagels.
But we don't, but a New Yorker would say, like a Manhattaner would say bagel, maybe. And that's fine. So yeah, I don't go being a pronunciation police. There's too many other things to police.
Should we just go with the nonsense Fifi F CFI?
Yes. Because really, I mean, if you think about it, we're the only show on the internet that can.
I feel when you put it that way, it's our responsibility then.
Yeah, I mean, we are the the show of obscure titles because we don't care about SEO.
We are the show of obscure title record.
Just say no to SEO. There's my protest for the day.
There we go. We've got all kinds of songs. All right.
Yeah.
Songs. You know, you shouldn't try to do two-factor authentication and think at the same time.
Too many factors authentic. Sorry. I should sing that song.
I think I'm going to curse your name now because you did that. But also, I think we need to update this streaming box. It's starting to show its age. I think that's what happened on the holiday episode when I got kicked off at the end.
Right.
I think it just was like, I can't handle processing.
Well, I will make room in the budget. I will lower our quotient of champagne and caviar for the month so that perhaps you might go out and get.
See, I never make jokes like that because then I think people will believe them.
I know.
Lindsay Turrentine used to do the same thing when people are like, "You guys get paid at CNET. You get paid by the products you review." And she's like, "Oh, yep, that's why we're all driving like the most expensive Lexuses you could possibly get. They just give us all those BMWs."
And then people write,
like, "See, I told you." Can't take a joke. But yeah, if you could cut back on the caviar, just a touch. I'm not saying you have to cut it all the way out.
Here, whenever I make a sarcastic joke, I'm going to say this.
Well, do you know about the Sark mark?
No.
That was a story that Molly and I covered at Buzz Out Loud. People were pushing to get the Sark mark standardized as a way to indicate that what you were writing at that moment was sarcasm. And we were, of course, at the time dealing with this same issue, saying we need an audible version of that.
Yeah. I think it's called inflection. The inflection of the day is sarcastic.
You would think so, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
You would think that should work.
That's not inflection, like pronunciation, is regional.
Yeah, like decouple.
Them apples, like decouple. I'm gonna decouple from sarcasm. I'm not gonna decouple from sarcasm. No, I know. You got to be really careful. If I've learned anything on this show, you got to be really careful about what you say on the internet.
You just have to. The way I approach it is, you just have to realize that everyone possible is going to hear everything you say, and you just have to be comfortable with all the possible reactions that could bring. Your brother may be hearing Simon Dingle say that he's Moss on your Facebook page. You have to realize that.
I think if someone says the word Moss in a South African accent, that's like kind of a cool thing and a compliment. Hey, he's Moss. He's Moss, mate. Nope, that's Australian. What is it? What is the?
I can't do an Afrikaans or.
It's
or
all
any
I
of
can
those.
hear is like District 9. I hear it in my head, but I
Yeah,
can't
right.
reproduce it.
That's your template. I always tend to go Australian or Kiwi if I
Yeah.
try it, though. At best, I'll end up at New Zealand, but I won't end up in South Africa.
I can do it, but not if I'm thinking about it. Like,
I
if
can
just
get
thought-
into the Tri-Nations, but I just can't land in the right one.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Tandagasa. That's a good mark. That's a good Sark mark. But I always think that's like, I don't know. I want like an elegance.
South African is a little closer to the English Isles accent, Tinvek points out.
South African. I can do that much. It's
African.
But I shouldn't. I just shouldn't, because there are enough South Africans who speak it correctly that I should not even try.
And also, Simon doesn't have a very thick accent, so
No.
I can't even think
Not at
about
all.
him and try to spin it.
Also, in his country, it's not an accent.
Well, yeah.
That's my favorite part about.
You know that I'm doing an accent right now.
Yeah.
Like, this is not the way I grew up talking.
Yep.
And so when I say decouple, you get a little window
Yeah.
into how I was born talking.
So two things happened during the show. One, Facebook showed me that I have been Facebook friends with my husband for 7 years and gave me the option to do a photo shoot about it, like a little photo thing, and I
Oh,
shared
okay.
it.
Yeah.
So that was interesting. They are really getting into that montage moments deal.
Remember?
Yeah.
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 I did
And
my year end thing, which was hilarious because it's only pictures other people took and tagged me in.
Yeah.
So it was a lot of Shannon Morse's wedding.
yeah,
Facebook pretty much thinks that was most of my year,
that was most of your year.
and some things from our vacation that Eileen had put up.
And speaking of caviar, during the show they called to confirm my caviar class reservation that I got for Christmas, a Christmas present. So I am a caviar eating.
See, that's not helping. Are you really taking? Where are you taking the caviar class?
At Petrosian. We
cool.
went there once on a whim for an Easter brunch, and they just did a beautiful brunch that featured some caviar, and I was like, I think I like caviar, and of course that is not something that one eats throughout most of the year unless one is not me, and so for Christmas I got a caviar tasting class, so I'm pretty excited about it.
Yeah, that's cool.
And then I immediately asked them if Matt could crash it. Like, can he not pay and just come and drink? They were like, yeah, maybe.
Really? Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, they were like, he won't. You'll have to give him your caviar. I was like, that's fine. I just want to
So
hang out.
what they're saying is like, really, you're paying for the caviar. Let's be
Yeah,
honest.
that's it. And they're like, if he can buy drinks, we'll take him.
All right. Yeah, we'll take his money.
Yeah, take his drink money. They're like, he won't be able to order a la carte. I'm like, it's okay.
Fair. That seems fair. That's
Yeah.
reasonable. That's reasonable. They're not like, no,
Yeah.
no, this is very locked down.
It was never going to be wine, right? And I can only go so far down like the fancy chocolates rabbit hole. And coffee, I can't drink enough of to justify an obsession with. So I'm working on caviar, maybe.
Because you have to have some kind of obsession.
You have to have
Why?
some
Wait,
kind
no,
of
hold on. Back up on chocolate, because
Yeah.
I'm curious why that doesn't work.
Because it makes me really sad, but my taste buds have evolved to the point where I can't eat a lot of chocolate. It's too rich. And my taste buds have evolved to the point where they love the toffee, vanilla, and lighter flavors. Like, I really love the subtlety of like a sticky toffee pudding. Like, that is my range, and up to a panna cotta. And anything chocolate is getting harder to eat. It's just like a growing up thing. It's kind of sad because I was like obsessed with chocolate growing up.
Well, you're talking. So you've moved away from dark chocolate. Is that what you're saying?
No, any kind of chocolate is just too rich as a dessert. It breaks my little 12-year-old heart that it's true.
I don't think of dark chocolate as being rich.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, every time I try dark chocolate, I'm like, I should like this. But really, you know
You
what I
just
mean?
don't like it.
My heart's not in it.
Yeah. No,
and then
okay.
my heart can't handle a whole
So
lot
the
of
chocolate you like is too rich, and then
Yeah.
that pushes you down the other. Yeah, I
Yeah, and
gotcha.
then dark chocolate is like a fancy shadow of the lowbrow chocolate that I like. So yeah, and wine, I just can't get into it. Can't do it.
I'm a big fan of the dark chocolates. We took a dark chocolate tasting class in Oakland one time, and they do the whole flavor wheel just like they do with everything. That was really interesting.
Yeah.
I miss that place. That place called Bittersweet had the best range of hot chocolates. They did serve coffee,
yeah.
but it was sort of a like, oh yeah, we do coffee. It's like buying a hamburger at a sushi place, right? They're like, yeah, we do coffee, and it's good, but you want the chocolate. You want the hot chocolate.
Yeah, I still can drink hot chocolate because that's really more of a milk product, right? With a elegant amount of chocolate in it. So I still
They had all kinds,
hot
right?
chocolate.
The American chocolate, very milky. Then they had the European chocolate, which is not very milky. Then they
that's
had
like-
the Mexican chocolate, which is kind of milky but spicy.
That is the chocolate I can still eat is Mexican chocolate because it's really mostly cinnamon and sugar.
Yeah.
And I love it. Those little like you're not supposed to eat the bars that you're supposed to make the hot chocolate out of, but I have been known to nibble on them because they are just that good. So yeah, if it's trending in a more like diffuse delivery, I can still eat it.
Bittersweet, yes, Big Jim. I believe they have one in San Francisco. They had opened one up. I don't know if it stayed open. Actually, I don't know if the one in Oakland's open anymore. That'd be
So-
good. Beatmaster's going to send some Swiss dark
I know,
chocolate.
I
Thank
saw
you.
that.
Yes, do
that
that.
is on
You
record,
could that'll count for several years of Patreon.
Yeah, really, just pay us in
Just pay us in
European
chocolate.
Yeah. Yeah. I had a crazy dream last night, but you're probably done editing, right?
I'm done editing. I'm just waiting for the SoundCloud to process.
Do you want to hear my
And
crazy
then-
dream?
Yeah.
So I had a dream last night and my dreams are like so weirdly practical and based on real life events, that Bill Murray was wandering around an outdoor farmer's market
Okay.
giving out money so that people could have gourmet hot dogs.
Oh, you saw Bill Murray on the Golden Globes. I bet that's how it got in your head.
A, that. B, Thomas Lennon was roller skating around the farmer's market down here yesterday wearing a giant CBS eye for part of a bit. It was a bit. It was a TBD bit. And it made me laugh so hard that like that got put in my mind.
And that's a very Bill Murray thing that he would
yeah,
do, right?
he's doing that nowadays. He's showing up and doing,
Yeah.
being the bartender at people's frat parties. And then a friend of mine had a gourmet hot dog for lunch, and so they all went doo, 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 and made a dream out of it. And then somehow, like Chris Hemsworth and the cast of an unspecified but very popular YA film was involved, and we flew there. And that's where it got a little like I don't know where that came from.
Well, hello, Chris Hemsworth's abs.
Hemsworth.
What are you doing in my
Don't
dream?
fly to get a hot dog. So yeah, that's where it got a little weird, but it was really a lovely, specific dream about Bill Murray and what a nice guy that he has become. That he probably always was. But
Yeah,
like,
right. No, I know what you mean.
That in his
Like how we've become
mellowing
aware.
and seasoning, he's able to use it in a way that works for him. I
Uses
think
his
that is
powers
the-
for good.
That is the most specific way I could say that.
Oh, we got a new comment on the Daily Tech News Show blog. It says, "Hello. After reading this remarkable article, I am too happy to share my familiarity here with colleagues."
Hi, Spammy. How you doing?
Then it links to the Roku 3500 streaming stick.
Oh, that's like legit spam. There's like a link involved.
I know. Actually, that
Wow.
was kind of well, they always have links, but usually
Right.
it's to like expand your something or other.
Yeah.
Not to the Roku
if it's a
3500.
tech link, it's borderline inappropriate.
Streaming this stick. All right, I am out of the post too.
Right.
Is what that means.
I still got it.
So, adios, goodbye, farewell, video viewers, and thank you for watching.